Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Ryan Eller, and we're in our second video on really how to complete the Cal State Apply application for the MISS program for fall 2021. Now, with that in mind, we've already gone through the first video with really how to navigate to Cal State Apply, how to create an account, and really how to select our program. And so if you haven't done those yet, I do recommend watching the first video in this playlist. But if you're here and you're seeing the four different quadrants of the application, since you've already selected our program, then you're in the right place. So we're going to start with the first quadrant, the personal information quadrant. I've kind of jumped ahead just to make sure that I'm giving you correct information, but I'll try to fill it out as if I was kind of you filling out the application for the first time, okay? So you'll see that there's 7 different sections here. I'll go through them one by one very quickly and just try to notate some key highlights about things that would just help us as the program or help you as the student as you're applying. Okay, so the first piece is the release statement. A little bit of legalese, but it does allow you to authorize our ability to kind of contact you for us to collect certain information to potentially help you with financial aid and just help with your overall admissions process. So naturally, we'll have to notate that you're okay releasing this information. After you've done that, you can go ahead and you can move forward. After you've hit I've reviewed this information, then you would move into biographic information, most of which will be pre-selected from your applicant profile that you created when creating your account. So most of this will be pre-filled for you. The only things that really kind of most matter to us at the program level is the alternate and preferred name section. So if you have a name that you prefer to go by, versus your legal name, it is nice for us to know that just in case that's something that's important to you. We would like you to be given that respect and due diligence from us as a program. So you can notate that there if need be. There will be some other kind of general biographic information and some of information related to determining residency, things of that nature. So you will fill that out, relatively straightforward. Anything that doesn't have a red asterisk isn't required. In many cases, you'll see me skipping those in this video. And I would skip those if I was an applicant personally. I would just move more quickly through the process because it's not information that's used by really us or the university for an admissions process, if that makes sense. Okay, so once again, you would hit I've reviewed this information and you would continue on to the next section. Now the contact information, as silly as this may sound, it's probably one of, if not the most critical aspects of your application. What tends to happen sometimes with just a few applicants is they'll select work addresses or even sometimes an address that isn't really their own. I don't know if that's to try to reduce spam or something of that nature, but if it's not going to an address that you readily live at or spend most of your time at, then you could miss key communication from either the university, both pre and post application. So let's say you've already completed your application and you were planning on earning some financial aid. Some of that documentation is done by kind of generic snail mail. So it's really important that your address be current, that your phone number and email be current. Because for example, from us at the program level, I do almost all of my communication by email and phone. So it's really, really critical that both of those be set up in a way that really allows us at the university to contact you, the applicant, okay? So first you would go out and fill out your current address and include your phone and email information. Then once again, most of this will carry over from your application profile that you've already created, okay? After you've done that, another really important section that might be overlooked is determining both citizenship and residency. And so really this comes down to state residency for those of you who are more domestic students living in the United States. And then if you're an international student, you would see a slightly different page that would be asking you about visa questions related to your ability to come from a foreign country to study here. But I'm going to fill this out as a domestic student since that will be the majority of our students. If you are an international student and this page gives you some trouble, feel free to reach out to me and I will do my best to support you on that front, okay? So with that in mind, if you are a domestic student who's a US citizen, you would want to notate that. If not, go ahead and notate that as well. And then you would want to really make sure that this next section is filled out correctly. So if you do hold California residency, naturally you would select yes or no on the next question. If you haven't lived here since birth, you're going to have to notate how long you've lived here. There's certain requirements to be deemed a California residency for tuition purposes. So that's quite important. In most cases, most people will qualify for residency. It's not terribly difficult to qualify for California residency. This is only really critical for the blended program. For the online program, tuition is the same regardless if you live here in California or if you live in another country even. The tuition is a flat rate, whereas for the blended program, that does have different tuition scales based on where you live. So this section is important. Make sure you fill it out to the best of your ability, and then go ahead and save and continue. Once you've done that, there's some more demographic-based information. You know, it's one of those things where it's up to you if you want to fill it out. Personally, I would probably decline the state just for the sake of getting it completed. But that's personal preference on my end. It doesn't really matter. You can fill this out however you want to fill this out. And once you've filled that out, you can move forward. Okay, and now, once again, kind of some stuff that might seem not as important, but could be somewhat critical. By and large, if you plan on earning, or excuse me, not earning, but using financial aid, I would recommend you notate your social security number here. Otherwise, you have to send it in by kind of paper form. It's a little bit messy. So if you do plan on using financial aid at Cal State Monterey Bay, I would include your social security number. I'm not going to because I'm not really truly applying to this program. But you know, that's just a piece of the puzzle. If you are an international student, naturally you wouldn't have a social security number, so you would select no and acknowledge that, okay? Another aspect here is notating the languages that you speak. Part of this is for admissions requirements purposes. It's required that you have a certain level of English knowledge, but it's also just something that's useful to know other languages that can be used as a potential kind of addition to your overall application. Another aspect is some of the military dependency questions. This somewhat matters for tuition, not particularly in our case, but you would notate that information. Other important, but other simple, excuse me, but also very important information is the idea of academic standing at the past university that you went to. So if you are in good academic standing, which probably about 99.9% of people are, you would go ahead and notate that. And then you would also notate some of these information about if you ever had conduct issues, were academically disqualified, things of that nature. Once again, for 99.9% of us, we would select no for all three of those questions, okay? You can notate if you're interested in getting a credential after completing the program. It's not terribly important. It's not going to affect your admissions in either way, but it's something to put out there. Okay, so this is some more demographic information. If you're interested in CalFresh program, you can notate that. Not going to necessarily go over that because it's not terribly relevant to our program. Similarly with an RN license, if you want to notate that you're going to get one in the future, you can. Not terribly important. Okay, then it's going to ask you a simple question about how you heard from us. You can fill this out however you want to. Most people will select counselor advisor because they might have talked to me before applying. Okay, you would hit save and continue. And from there, you're pretty much close to done. The last piece is the financial and parental information section. Okay, so you'd want to first read all of this information. From there, you would select one of the two that most likely applies to you. Okay. Most people might select one or more, some might not. For me, I'm going to select no, but really it's up to you, okay? From there, you would notate your overall dependent kind of situation. A lot of this is written as if you were an undergraduate student applying from home type thing. So just, you know, kind of bear that in mind that that's just the way that these are written, but that's, you know, kind of neither here nor there, I suppose, okay? So I'm gonna put that information in there as if I was actually applying. I just wanna see if this actually fits in there, okay. So actually thinking about this now in a little bit more detail, you'd probably wanna select one or more of the above apply to you since most of us are you know, somewhat older adults applying to this program, okay? So after you've selected that, you go ahead and notate out kind of the total size of your household. I'm just going to fill it out as if I'm applying. Okay. I'm just going to make up a salary here. Okay. And so after you filled out your adjusted gross income information, which is important for your financial aid eligibility, you would just notate how much college your parents have earned, and from there, you are essentially done with the first section of the program. And so then what you'll see is if you go back to your application, you'll have a green check mark notating that you've completed the first quadrant of the application. So that's the personal information quadrant, relatively simple one. Most people won't have too much trouble with it, but hopefully that video serves some purpose in getting you through it. So with that in mind, we'll move on to the academic history next. And thank you for watching this video.